At least one new guest is dancing to the tunes.
He is jamming to it.
Well, I hope I'll put the audio credits. I've been meaning to every time. By the way, this fine music can be found at upbeats.com. I'm just telling you that. It's really good free music for your internet videos and all those things. So
I think that's the first time you've actually mentioned where the music's from.
They've contacted him and said, say it.
Right, I got a shock thing. Anyway, no, there's a really cool website I found called upbeats.io or something like that. I don't know. You can look for it, free internet music, Upbeats, and they have some really great music. And so the artist, I do believe I linked in the thing below here and everything. So really cool stuff, really good freebies for your website and everything. So we're talking Lego Masters tonight. We have 2 Lego Masters contestants. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, these are our friends who left the great metropolis of Atlanta, where the show is filmed on TV this week. And I know for at least one of us, he publicly announced that you guys were one of his top 3 ride or dies, man. And so, sorry, Dana.
Sorry to have let you down, sir.
Sorry, Dana.
You know what? I actually talked with Sam this week via social media. Super cool guy, super nice guy. Hey, you got a friend? Look at there, my fellow humans. There she is. Emily. And this is not your Aubrey. This is our friend Aubrey, who you may have met.
Wish Aubrey. Yep. No, we like Aubrey.
Wish Aubrey.
She says there's a different Aubrey than her this season, and she's the Aubrey you would get on Wish, which is hilarious.
And we should recognize that she is Wish Aubrey, which is formerly Dark Aubrey, which is also her alter ego. So
Emily and I are actually the Ryan and Aubrey Wish couple as well. So there's a lot of competition to be Wish Aubrey. Get in line.
Yeah, and I feel like when Emily says your favorite humans is a bit redundant. I'm not sure if she's ever met an enemy. So
this is probably a valid point.
She reminds
Never
me
met
of a
anybody
good friend
she
I
talked
had
to.
in another town, and she would hug a cactus and be its best friend, and like, look, my best friend cactus, and she's bleeding. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, I was just say to be fair, after some nights of drinking at Brick Slopes, I'm pretty sure she actually did do that. So that's quite funny that you say that.
I was actually waiting for her to chime in on the chat. How did you guys know I hugged a cactus?
Exactly.
It's coming. It's coming.
All right. So this is our Lego Masters recap. Thank y'all for joining us here. So amazing that you. Wait. What'd she say? She said, I can name 9 people I don't like.
There's 6 of us here, so who are the other
3, 4?
Yeah.
But I bet you that list of 9 people she has like in her wallet laminated that she has to have proof that there is somebody she doesn't like.
Right.
She still hugs them, but when she looks at her friend, she goes, "This is one."
That's about accurate.
No, she's amazing, and I've met her for like a half a second in person before, but super fun. So let's talk about Lego Masters. And you guys, I know that you guys have certain rules that you can say and can't say. So please don't feel pressured for us to go, so how do they hold you over or anything like that? You don't have to give us any details. But and also to all of those who are listening, here's the disclaimer. We are we love the show. We enjoy the show. We watch the show. We do have our own personal issues with format and production and things like that. We are old school builders, so we were really in it for the build and the building techniques. And and talking to Sam, we were talking about different people of different levels of build make it on the show, and that's fine. He said something really fun. He said the great equalizer is the clock. He said build skill is one thing, time management, and being able to focus in on things. I mean, there's a whole lot more to building for the show, but we really enjoy the building and everything. And you guys have done great. It's unfortunate that you're sitting here on our show. That's okay. But we're
happy to be here.
And I do want to take this moment first off and say that I feel so horrible that last week we lost the chat to StreamYard and it went crickets. And I got messages from both Aubrey and Emily, like they were screaming at you just because you weren't acknowledging their answers. I'm like, I didn't know. Yeah, just worst show ever.
It's
I'm
all right.
monitoring the real chat as well, so I will let you guys know this time if it goes down.
No, good deal. Good. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and put this up there. I'm going to hope it doesn't induce, horrible feelings or whatever. But we do have this to say as a reminder. How did that moment? Just go ahead and tell me. How did that moment feel? Your last show, 1 hour left. Go ahead and just tell us that story.
I mean, it just gives me PTSD every time I see that 1 hour clock countdown. We did like a premiere party at a local venue, and when that came on the show, like I literally got goosebumps all down my body because it's like most of the time when they're getting ready to count down, like unless you're just completely oblivious, you can hear Will because he's kind of loud and annoying. He's up there, getting ready to talk. You can tell, like you look up, you're like, oh, the 1 hour countdown, like it's coming. But I mean, just to have it actually happen, like on the show and realize, like feel all those feelings all over again, it was stressful.
Yeah. So, Chris, what about you? How did that feel? How did that feel watching yourself on this last episode? What was it
To
like?
be fair, I have not actually watched any of the episodes, so yeah, just so to say, how do I feel about watching myself? I tend to avoid that even in just normal real life day-to-day operations. So, yeah, there no immediate feelings there. Thinking back onto set though, I think we were just dialed into so many random ideas that we were trying to implement and probably poorly execute into that build that the 1 hour clock didn't have enough time to actually phase me.
I got you. You were in the zone or in the so
Yeah, you guys
crazy,
might have
right?
noticed this. We weren't exactly polishing our builds for hours at a time.
Right.
We did, like we talked about that great equalizer, and Chris and I are used to building stuff that takes months. Like we'll tinker. We're very technical. We came on the show with a lot of ambition to really push the limit of what you can do with Lego in terms of like adding motors and sounds and just really showing people like the technical end of things. And that came at the expense, as everybody saw, of time management and polishing the actual build. So just because we talked to some Lego fan media on Friday, and I think the thing I said was just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
I want to address Pink Wheel's question real quick. The TV ad, you would think that the TV ad 10 studs, but no, that is actually the true dimension of Jordan's neck. It is that big. It's about 96 studs in width, and the TV had no factor in that.
Chris,
Were you all fighting in the van coming back from production going, ah!
Yeah.
Chris, I gotta say, you're probably the first contestant we've had on here who has said that they don't want to watch themselves on TV. So I personally, because I haven't really thought about it, but like for example, because I've done some theater and some other stuff, I hate seeing myself. So
here's a thing for me, and I don't think I realized this until being present on set, and then obviously unfortunately having to leave, that we were on this set in the studio for up to 20 hours at a time just for random walkthroughs and things like that, and the actual challenge.
Yeah.
And then you think about all of the moments that I do remember, and to then probably see that condensed into 42 minutes on television, I feel like obviously it has to get done, and I respect the entire editing team. They were incredible, but I don't want that to overwrite my very limited memory as it is of what I remember of all the other teams and my experience with Jordan, to then only be condensed to that 42 minutes. So yeah, so that's my just personal reason. I probably will watch it at some point, but for right now, no, I'm still treasuring what I remember of actually being there as opposed to what they're going to present.
Well, you know what?
Sounds good.
I applaud that. I think that's great. That's a perspective we've never had with a contestant we've had on the show. But you know what? Yeah, you had weeks and weeks and weeks there, and you probably got 3 or 4 minutes per episode just because of so many teams and all that kind of stuff. And we unfortunately have noticed in production, if all of a sudden Will's talking to you a bunch in the show, that either means you're top or bottom, especially at this point. And then, we start going, oh, dang, they're going home. The people I know on the show, I'm like, crud, talking to them. Don't talk to them. Just let them be.
I think what clued it in for me for this episode was, and my first thought was, oh my God, they did the classic blunder. Amy and Jamie told them something and they didn't do it. And I was like, oh no. And so that was for me. That was the precursor. I'm like, oh, I know who's going home. Shit.
It's unfortunate because we heard the feedback, but just because they can't be everywhere at all at once,
right?
They don't come and talk to everybody in the first 5 minutes of your build. Like some people they talk to in the first 3 hours, some people they talk to in the last 2 hours. We were kind of in that later camp because by the time we had the obelisk built when they're talking to us, so that means we were down. Because of how bad we're bad at managing our time.
Right.
I just back calculating. We're probably in like the final 2 hours. So when you hear like, where's your volcano? You don't have time to totally pivot at that point. You're like, well, we got to just stick with what we got and hope it's good enough to sneak through. So.
Yeah,
well,
and I think
I'm going to take issue there, not with what you said, but the fact that quote unquote, you guys didn't have a volcano and everybody else did. Everybody did not have a volcano. There were other towers. There were other things.
Yep.
And so sometimes we're like, are those shenanigans? We don't like shenanigans on the show and all that kind of stuff. I know you can't comment on that. I don't want you guys to get into trouble. But I know that the technical thing that you guys 100% towers, temples, So
I would say I don't know. I think I could say that it's not. It's up to the judging. It's all a matter of subjectivity there. Like
ours was probably the least like a volcano. I think the other teams, maybe it wasn't a true volcano. Maybe it was coming out of a temple or something, but it had more of a volcano feel. Whereas ours was very much an obelisk. And also, in the judge's defense, we put so much time into that mechanism, and even though I actually knocked out the mechanism part itself pretty quickly. Just incorporating it into the building around it. We actually were trying for the snake movement to be a surprise. So I wanted to cover the mechanism so that you wouldn't see it. I didn't want the magic of the snake coming up to be revealed by seeing this wheel spinning. I wanted it to be, so all that time folding that thing into the build left us with not a lot of time to polish. And even if they had liked our obelisk, I think they could have got us on just other details that were lacking because of how much time we put into the mechanism.
So I got two big questions for that specific, exactly what you're talking about. So first and foremost, did they give you any, because we know that we've seen from other seasons when they start introducing things that aren't Lego, but we're supposed to be interacting with the Lego, whether it be water or whatever it's going to be. Did they give you any sort of idea of how much ooze was going to be coming out so that you could kind of anticipate? Because it felt like there just wasn't enough flow to do what you would have needed to do. But did they give you any indication?
Be careful, Jordan.
Let me go ahead and advertise our sponsor, FlowMax, in case your foot number. Go ahead.
Be careful, Jordan.
Yeah, I will be careful.
Yeah. Don't hold up.
Let's just say, as we saw in season 3, whenever you have something that is a variable like hydro, fluid mechanics.
Yeah,
there is a very wide range of possible outcomes. We may have been expecting a certain type of outcome. We didn't get what we needed for our thing to work. I probably will just leave it at that.
Yeah. The answer to your question, did we have expectations? Yes.
All right. So then the other aspect, do you think, and this is subjective, I know, and you may not be able to answer, but I kind of feel like had the flow been more and the snake functioned like it was supposed to, because it looked great from what you guys were doing for testing, that had that worked, the outcome would have been a little different.
Yes. I believe that.
I think we would have gotten credit for it.
I think that because
I think we would have been dinged on the lack of
volcano.
What a volcano should look like, the triangular, the steeps volcano. But I think the mechanism, it being the most complex and complicated mechanism of the studio, I think that would have allowed us to remain definitely wouldn't have highlighted us to the top, but I think we definitely, as Jordan I think punned earlier, we would have snaked by.
I totally agree. That was my feeling, is that it almost feels like we've seen this before, where when somebody tries to go the distance and tries to push the envelope, if they fail, it's almost like that was more the kicker than anything else.
Yeah, that was us with as Jordan said, putting so much time into the mechanism, into the actuator, into the wheel, and then concealing it so that it just looked natural when we hoped it would activate. Yeah, that was just us putting our head in the guillotine.
Did the wheel actually spin at all? Like, did it move?
You could see in the movie it trickled a little bit.
Yeah.
What I would have loved to have done in hindsight would have been, because we had I built it that channel really tight, less than a tile's width of space between the bottom of the channel and the bottom bucket of the pedal. So I mean, any more flow would have probably done it. What I would have loved to have done in hindsight, being a civil engineer, my brain's always thinking. I didn't take a lot of hydraulics, but a couple of bricks on the downhill side of that thing would have caused the pool to come up a little bit and moved that flow into the bucket. So maybe as much as just a couple of slopes stuck into the bottom of that thing to force the depth. But since we were kind of thinking we would get a little more volume, that didn't factor in. I thought having a half of a plate thickness was going to be plenty to catch the flow. And it was thick enough that I knew as long as we had some fluid to touch it, we would be fine.
Yeah, it was for me. It was really the two, like I said, the two demerits of lack of a working movement and then lack of a volcano. Had we passed one of those demerits, I think again, we still would have survived.
And just going back to the comments about how Amy and Jamie came to you guys pretty late in the show to say, hey, that's not a volcano. Of course, in the edit of the show, it's done fairly early in the show.
Yep.
So we're all yelling at you guys going,
Pivot!
Fix it. I told you guys fix it.
Classic editing blunder for the audience to be completely clueless to what's going actually on.
See, all the more reason for me not to watch this. Not
There's also a little bit of dialogue too, back and forth that doesn't make it in there. And so I think we walked away from that feeling like we were
okay.
We were on the cusp. It wasn't like what the hell is this? It was it was one of those, oh, that's interesting. And it was like, okay, if we could make this work, then this will pass by. Like, it was one of those. Yeah. So
yeah, I think if it did work, I think Nina and Sam and you guys would have flipped.
Potentially. But I don't know I think putting Nina, the whole build was, the top half was really good. There's like 3 or 4 builds that all could have been top 2 and could have won. Yeah. The bottom half, I think, other than our double shortcoming, if we'd got one of those to work, there probably could have been like 3 or 4 builds clustered in there. And maybe it's a little showmanship to make some drama with a golden brick. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Just hard to tell.
Yeah, I agree.
You guys have an effect on Emily. Never say I'm doing something special. There you go.
Yep. Yeah. Let it be a surprise. And we were kind of coached up on that too. But when they come by and they're like, "What's this?" You're like, "Oh, it's just going to lie there. The snake is definitely not anything special to see." What does the paddle wheel do? Nothing.
Nothing.
It's just there. It's a garnish. It's a garnish.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
A garnish. All right, so we usually do a guess to try to figure out what all was the briefs you guys had. Obviously, you had to have something that the lava flowed by and moved. We're guessing you had to have, I don't know. Sometimes it's interesting to see if y'all have a height requirement or not, because we know from other seasons you guys get a height requirement, and I don't know if you had that. So I have to answer those questions. Do you guys think there was a height? The people who aren't on the show, do you think there was a height requirement, or?
Well, they all had the tube. They had the tube.
They all had the tube, or they had a stick beside it that was a certain height.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I remember that. So, now you can comment on this or not. Were there 2 things, I guess, that had to put in there? One that shot the sparklies out, and one that made the lava flow. And you may not can talk production. I'm pretty sure they went, here's fire, and then they had the reset. Here's goop. I mean, all that kind of stuff. I'm guessing.
Well, I think they showed on the show. They showed
Yeah,
the
there
two
was two
tubes on the
tubes.
show.
Yeah.
So you got to have one with. I mean, if you guys have ever done fireworks, you need one with a wire, right, for the electric ignition. And then the other tube was obviously for the lava. But
I really think, I'm sorry, we need to get Emily on the show and just see how close we can to getting her busting the whole thing wide open. And
it won't be hard.
Well,
Yeah. If Emily was on the show, it would not
Emily
take long
gives out
before.
spoilers faster than she gives out hugs.
Yeah, I was going to say we would be doing an injustice by having Emily on until after Emily's off the show. So
yeah,
I think we haven't had I don't know if we necessarily have had a rule because Mark and Steven came on, but they're really good about not telling us who won because they won. But I think it's probably best for us to never have somebody on until actually they're off the show.
Right.
Makes sense.
what's fun with Mark and Steven is hearing them start to grunt at each other, going, and they do it to each other, like,
And I mean, Steven could have been a lawyer. I seriously think he could have been a lawyer. The way he's like, well, let's see, how do we work? Don't go there. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, and our friend and Moto from that season, sometimes he's in the chat with us, and he'll be like, "Don't say anything."
Oh my! I could absolutely see that from Moto.
That's awesome. So, you guys, let's see. Did you guys get to meet up with other seasons and kind of talk to them before you were revealed, or did you have to be zippy, no talky until then? Oh, there he is. Moto.
Hey, Moto.
Yeah, actually, I met Moto in several of season 2. I actually haven't seen season 3 either. I was traveling a lot, so I haven't seen that one. So if I ran into any of them, I would not have known, unfortunately. But yeah, spoke to a few before. Actually, it was a week, maybe just a few days before we were revealed, Jordan.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So post announcement, have you guys got to hang out with other season members at conventions or anything?
The announcement came really late in the year, convention season wise. So it actually happened right before BrickCon, which is kind of the last of the major conventions. So I actually became friends with Austin when they came and visited BrickCon last year from the Block Docs team. I've been friends with Mark and Steven for 12 years. Mark
you're amongst the castles.
The Castle Bros, yeah. So Mark will tell you, I was the first AFOL that he interacted with online when he started popping around the internet community. In fact, after the show, when I went and hung out with them for a little bit, I went over to their build lair at their house, and their mom came out to the garage and was like, "Oh, AK Brickster, you're like a household name around here." And I was like, "Oh, wow, I'm flattered. This is great." So those guys I've been friends with for forever, but Austin and I kind of bonded when I met him at BrickCon before, obviously, we'd even tried out for this season. And he and I both mountain bike and rock climb and stuff like that. So we went mountain biking at BrickCan. I abducted him, Harry Simon. Abducted him at BrickCan, and we went mountain biking in Squamish and stuff. So and then at Brick World, I went to that one as well this year. And there, as you guys know, probably they had a big reunion of all of the prior seasons and got a big group photo with everybody. So I hung out with a bunch of the folks then as just Austin's tag along, but nobody knew I was on the show.
Yes, we were all very much kind of separated from all of that big family thing because that's a Lego Master exclusive card thing. But yes. But you now will be able to participate next time.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I just ask that. I guess the season before that, they announced the cast early and then delayed the show. Yeah. So that was bad, and especially bad for Dom and Ethan, who are friends and everything.
Right.
The show and everything. But there he is right there. Look at him.
Yeah, my buddy.
That guy. So they had to experience maybe some of what you guys did because it's like they've announced that people are on the show. We can't say anything.
Right.
But they went right up to the line for y'all. Was that hard? Would rather them get it out so you guys could at least talk about it a little?
There were definitely several castmates who were in they need to announce it a week after filming finished camp. And then there were some others who were just like, it's going to happen when it's going to happen. And then I feel like the patience started running out for some in regards to that, because everyone was thinking, there'd be a month, maybe just more than a week before the show. Basically, I mean, I feel like it was about 10 days, maybe a full 2 weeks prior to the actual premiere, and then we still hadn't received any promo stuff. So I think they were still trying to, like you said, recover from last year and find the perfect balance as to when they could capitalize on the most hype as possible.
Yeah, because we went to Brick Slopes, and that was only a couple weeks before the announcement. But all the trailers were coming out at Brick Slopes, so like it was like everybody was kind of like, hey, Jordan, how's it going? Hey, Chris, and we're like, you gotta wait and see. They're like, this is literally a picture of you. Like, you gotta wait and see. So it's kind of ridiculous, but that's the rules.
It's right there for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tim and Tim were like had a big feature in one of the promos that said literally Tim on their overalls. They're like, hey, we saw you. Like, well, no, you gotta wait and see.
What you talking about?
So that's just how it goes. It was fine.
Well, that's Emily. I was like, hey, I saw you on the show. She goes, what show? And on the commercial. I'm like, really? That kind of thing. It was she was training, but she was being reserved and everything.
I got a couple people actually. They messaged me like when the first promo came out, we weren't featured in it more than just the snap of like the flash through all the teams thing. And my buddy, he's like, was that you in the trailer? And I was like, what do you mean? And he sent me a screenshot. I was like, man, that guy does look a lot like me. And he's like, yeah, that's crazy.
So I convinced someone up through the first episode that I was not on the show.
Well, you don't know. You haven't watched it, so.
Yeah, maybe you never got on the show.
He posted screenshots in our fantasy football chat, and I was basically like, no, that's not me. And he's like, oh, okay, I just really thought it was someone that really looked like you. And everyone was like, no, Josh, you're an idiot. That is definitely Chris.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That was pretty funny. All right, so here we go. We're going to go through the builds. I don't know if you've got them in any particular order or whatever. But
they are in the order that they showed them at the reveal in the show. So
okay, but we don't know what Google's done to it since you put them. Anyway, here we go. We'll add them here, and we'll talk about this. You guys can talk about what you want and everything. So share that. We'll start off with Lewis and Alex's Temple of the Sea God.
Yeah.
And just an FYI, Atlanta Brick Co. I don't know if you guys know Atlanta Brick Co. Atlanta Brick Co. has pieces of your season in their store. They did a review and a breakdown, and they revealed that production didn't want to clean the goop off of the bricks, so they sold them to Atlanta Brick Co. And Atlanta Brick Co. has them as clean stuff off. So I know that on that show that the little seaweed towers here or some of the things. So there may be pieces of your build. Contact Atlanta Brick Co. They're holding them for you guys if you want the thing. Oh, hang on. Let me go back to the main here.
I asked Mark if he had our snake or if he had our pharaoh, and he said no, they didn't get anything off of ours. So ours went straight to the burn pit, I guess.
Okay. Well, you didn't have enough lava flow, I guess.
There you go.
It was still clean.
Yeah, there you go.
From Atlanta Brick Co. They actually have the mountain itself too.
And there's if you reach in there, there's a pair of Amy's heels in there too. So
that's right. And unfortunately,
I want to see Mark wearing those. Those guys are already tall enough as it is. They don't need another 6 inches.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but the same thing goes for Amy.
That's true. That's a fair point.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, let me go back to this, and we'll talk about the pictures here. So starting out with Luis and Alex and everything, and I'm just going to go ahead and point it out. This is not a volcano.
It has rock on the
back. Off the top, right?
It's a temple built into a volcano.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That's fair. That's fair. So really cool. This has some smells a lot like some ancient, some old Lego underwater things and everything. I think they did a good job here. What do you guys think of the Temple of the Sea God?
I was while it not being a volcano, I really liked how they actually mechanicked this one very well. That yes. They were very much it kind of almost felt like this should be at a water park, and that their lava flow was like the Cowabunga slide, because that ooze just came straight down the center. There was no, they didn't give it any options or chance to go anywhere else. And it went straight down through and came out the mouth, and whatever wheel mechanism they used inside so the eyes would flicker. It was fantastic. Just right off the gate, Just a fantastic job.
So you guys may not can reveal. Did everybody? Was everybody's flow exactly equal? Can you say? Maybe you can't say.
That's a personal question, Chris.
That is.
I mean, you guys watch the show. You probably have some thoughts on whether or not everybody had about the same.
I do, and in that is the shenanigans. I think anyway. So
yep.
I will say, when this one rolled out and the lava made those eyes flutter, those guys set the bar right out the gate because I thought out of all the builds, honestly, that they most seamlessly worked the movement into their build. It was a subtle movement, but it was very dramatic and it was well done. Yeah.
Was there actual lights in there, or was that Photoshopped?
There were, but the lights were just those little push button lights. Those were already on, and so basically they were flaps that revealed the light beam, is how I understand it. Okay. And those little push button lights, when you have studio lights on top of the build, you can't pick them up. So they CGI'd some lights into the eyes for them, but the actual eyes actually flapped like red lava, if I recall correctly. I think it was some sort of a weighted, like a cantilevered thing, and the weight of the lava was enough to tip them, so they were blinking. So it wasn't even anything that was turning, as far as I recall. I believe it was just a cantilevered flap,
which even adds more to the simplicity of just adding that in there.
Sometimes simple is better.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know, but Dana's name in high school was cantilevered flap. But anyway, all right, let's go to the next one. Was in the top two? Is that correct? This is one of the top two?
No, it was not.
This one was not.
No, it wasn't. And it should have been.
I think it was. It must have been 2A.
Yeah.
A close third. All right, there we go. Tim and Tim, the big plunge. Let's talk about this one. And by the way, Tim and Tim, if you're listening, and I forgot to invite Tim, I just realized that. But I know your little fishies can be gotten at Atlanta Brick Co. So
sorry, I'm asking a very obviously question known to the rest of you. Tim's were after Lewis and Alex.
Yeah, they actually on the show they went habitat by habitat back to back on all of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the underwaters together.
So it was water, cloud, desert, jungle, or some of their other
air.
Yeah.
Okay. I apologize. I mentioned that I had failed to mention that my best friend's birthday is today, and we are heading out to dinner.
Our best friend's birthday.
Don't you dare!
I already wished her happy birthday.
Yeah, we share a father, and that is it. But yes, I apologize, gents, that I am going to have to hop off now, so we can make this reservation. But thank you for having me. I will actually, you know what? I'm not driving, so I will mute myself and see if I could provide any feedback in the interim. But if not, I will then be jumping off.
Okay, well, Chris, if we don't get to say bye, it is an honor that you would show up on our little show. We really appreciate it.
Nah, don't even say that. We're gonna have me. I'll join whenever. Remember, I have no show to be on now, so I can jump on whenever.
This is true. You can come back anytime.
I will spam you twice a week, brother.
There you go. Just let me know. Have Jordan forward me the schedule, because Jordan will let you know he's like my age, and I don't read any emails. I'm terrible.
Okay. Sounds great. All right, so the big plunge from our friends Tim and Tim, Big Tim and Tim the Owl and everything. What do you guys think of this build?
I literally made sure to just watch the episode this morning so I would have all these things fresh in my head, and I forget what their lava flow looked like.
It was quite strong.
It had a lot of flow, did it? I believe. I think
it really made the little fishy spin around, and that was the thing, right?
Yeah, that was their thing, because even they got a soundbite of him going, "Oh, the fish bun."
Yeah, they had a couple. They had the clownfish that's right there in the center of the photo was on a little turner, horizontal spinner.
Yeah,
and then they had another little wheel that I think is maybe that yellow circle that's dead center and lower. that also turned. It didn't really do anything, but they had their mechanism was working pretty good.
I think a lot of their lava was internal. Like you didn't really see it flowing down the outside until it came out of the bottom area.
Yeah, it went like off to the right, down a ramp, and then kind of turned a corner and down the front, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So I say this with respect, does this look a little bit busy to you guys? It seems a little busy to me.
Which Tim and Tim have been notorious for being busy in their builds.
Yeah.
But
Truth.
But Tim is busy in his builds all the time. I mean, it's not like he's only busy in his builds on the show. We've seen his stuff. His stuff is always jam-packed with details. That's just part of his signature style of building. So for me, it just says Tim and Tim to me because that's what they've done. But it is feel busy because it's hard to focus on what's going on. It's kind of like, I think I mentioned this last week, that if we have to walk up to your build and you have to explain it, then you've put too much into it because the story is not quite there. So, but yeah, it's on par with all of their other builds.
Yeah, Moto asked the question. Kate came in a little bit like, yes, it seems, Moto, that motion of some sort because of the lava flow was required. Yeah. So I apologize if I'm not getting to you guys in chat and you guys be watching it as well, because I'm having to control the graphics for one another.
Jeff is doing a fantastic job of policing the chat.
I'm monitoring.
You're monitoring, you're making sure it doesn't disappear.
Yeah,
all right. So, did I mess that up?
Yes, you did.
I did. I tapped it.
Okay.
All right.
Cut your paper.
So the next one here, Poppy and Ben, the Scorpion worshippers, which has a lot of adventurers smell to it, I do believe, to me.
And
spoiler alert,
this was the winning build for the
episode. Was the winner. Yes, it was. So your thoughts on this? Obviously, this one won the judges' hearts over.
Yep.
What do you guys think?
I think from an architecture, let me say that again. From an
Did you say a narc? Are you calling it a narc?
Architectural? Yeah, because there's a portion of my brain that wants to say archaeological, but it's architectural is the word I'm trying to go with.
Both tricky words.
Yeah, all those old funky $5 words. The overall structure and the columns and the feel to this, they were hitting it on all cylinders as far as the look and the vibe for it going, and then just throwing that mountain in the background to be your volcano, it worked out fantastic. Mm-hmm. On the downside, I think that their movement was kind of lacking. Like that could have been bigger, better. And there was some joke about that that they were like he was trying to channel the flow so that they would have more flow control, but it didn't seem as flowy as some of the others. And again, I know flow is contention here, but overall,
Poppy is north of 50, and when you get to be 50, flow
just barely.
We didn't talk about the columns needing to stand up straight. We just talked about the flow. So,
I think on this one, Ben's architecture background, he's studying architecture in college. It really shone through. I love the color composition as well. The dark blue and then some of the sand greens and then the white just really snaps.
Yep.
I like that it's asymmetrical with the aqueduct on the one side and then the little bit more emphasis on the blue and the platform on the left. The columns off kilter was all phenomenal. So from an artistry standpoint, this one I think was, I don't want to say easily the best because I think a couple of other ones were also very visually stunning.
Yeah.
I agree the movement was simple. It did work, but as we decided earlier, sometimes simple and working is better than complicated and not working. So.
This was the one where the movement was basically the guy was just kind of floating down the flow, right?
Correct. He got pushed down the stairs. Yeah.
Yeah. So there wasn't really any actual mechanism.
Right.
Yeah.
That reminds me of season 2, or maybe it's 3. I can't remember now. They blur. But I mean, somebody had a big complicated thing and it worked and all that kind of stuff. And then they went to the next build and just something barely spun on the top. They're like, check next and everything. And it's like, what? I mean, if it's a thing, make it a thing. If it's not a thing, don't make it a thing. And
that's kind of what Jordan was saying earlier. Is like, well, don't tell them it's supposed to do something, so that if it doesn't work, it's no big deal. If you do, and that's where it gets you. Now, Jordan, you were there, and I think they showed it slightly, but I don't remember them showing it further. The aqueduct, did it take the lava flow along it as well?
It was supposed to go down the aqueduct and then run off the end.
Okay.
And I, with how thick and slow the flow was, I don't know if it made it. There was not a lot of the fluid wasn't carrying, it wasn't jumping any gaps. We'll say that. So if there was a small crack of any kind, there was no forward momentum enough to carry it over that and get it in. So I think a few builds fell victim to, a pretty good design that might have carried something at a slightly higher flow rate, but otherwise, I think they got some into the aqueduct. But if you look about midway on the aqueduct, there's a couple of notches there. I think the intent was to have some spilling off the sides and some come off the end. And I don't know that anything made it past that first notch.
Yeah. From the overhead shot that I remember seeing, it was about halfway. Emily said it's the same as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that would have been, I mean, if that had that little add to it would have been visible and shown, it would have just pushed it over the top for me, because
they won anyhow. But
I know, but I'm just saying that to Jordan's point of him being an architecture student and adding the aqueduct in there and actually having it do what it's supposed to do would have just been the cherry on the top of the build. So
yeah. I think for me, there is definite color control. It's colorful, but not audacious and everything. With respect, I will compare it to Tim and Tim, and I love Tim and Tim. Although they're an underwater sea and there's a lot of color here. Architecturally, though, this seems to be under control. There's also a lighting issue with the pictures.
I was going to make that comment that why Lego decides to throw a huge giant spotlight behind a build while you're showcasing.
But I guess that's the studio, though, right?
It is, but they could think about these things. Just all I got to do is just shut those spotlights down, and you'd still get, a different, or put the spotlights down below. I digress. Anyway,
it's lens flare.
I agree with you. This is a case study in color theory, color blocking, and composition. This is as good as it gets.
Chris, Moto's second last comment, I have to disagree with. You pop it up.
Lavos. Well, you know what? This was the moment when this is almost like the Castle guys when they lost the Castle Bros. Yeah. Our Canadians who have been on like a seven win streak.
2 seasons.
And I'm Alaskan and I live in Washington, literally touching Canada. And so those were our bottom 2 teams. So there you go.
Yeah, I got a feeling you guys
sometimes you know too much.
You guys were expecting maple and you got off-brand Walmart syrup, and we don't know how to handle that, right?
You got the sugar free.
No, because that would have been runny. I think they just got the really old maple syrup that had basically just dried out.
The molasses.
Yeah, molasses, that's it.
Molasses flavored syrup.
All right. Ew. All right, so here we go. Let's go on to this next one here. Oh, here we are. All right.
That's terrible.
This is not terrible.
So I mean, I could go through. I'll let you guys share your thoughts first, and don't hold back. I'm sitting here, but give me both barrels.
Well, it's easier for us to criticize you with you here than you not being here and me thinking you're in the comments and ready to respond. So it's better here.
No, knock it
I'm
out.
going to give you a huge shout out because you guys actually paid homage to adventurers. That Pharaoh, the Sphinx is straight out of there, and you found the pieces and all of that to make that. And reference that, and they barely showed it. And I'm like, oh, they made the thing from Adventurers. That's amazing. So kudos to you for that.
Mm-hmm. I actually,
you totally had the even though you guys didn't add a lot of detail, but you totally got the vibe of the Egyptian feel that you were going with. So that was really kind of cool. Now, I do have a question, and my only critique about the obelisk is because I live with an archaeology student. There was no point on the top of your obelisk. So at this point in time, it's just a column.
Right. Well, maybe it broke off over the ages. The problem was we had to have room for the lava to come out. We were
and the fireworks too, right?
We didn't know how the lava was going to respond. If we had known that it was going to dribble out, then we would have probably thrown a point on it and just left an opening like some of the other builds did.
Right.
Christopher and Roberts being a great example. But we thought if we had a plume of lava shooting 5 inches into the air, how are we going to capture all that? So there's like actually kind of a trough behind the obelisk and everything. The whole idea was catch this stuff raining from the sky and try to funnel it into a useful direction.
Right. Again, details that would have helped you yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a big part of the time suck on this, again, the mechanism got done pretty quickly, but as an engineer, I know that you get a lot more torque if you can get a larger radius on this thing. So not knowing how strong the flow is going to be, and we're having to run a linear actuator that's going to lift the snake, I wanted a pretty big diameter wheel. When you assume, put the axle of that thing is right around the top of that dark tan. We had to elevate the whole thing,
right?
The height of 2 burps. So we're running to the brick pit, emptying the burp container like multiple times to just get this thing built up enough that there was room for the mechanism to turn.
Because that was actually the next question I was going to ask. Is it looks like that the dark tan is all burps, and then like you went with regular bricks on top to house it in. But even still, that's still a good impressive amount of brick to have had to slap down in that amount of time, even including putting in the engineering.
It's probably a couple hundred burps just by itself, and then there's also all the supports and stuff underneath. And we had to make the channel, and of course half the build weren't like multiples of 16, so you couldn't just cover the top with 16 by 16 plates. It had to be like this little mosaic. Behind the sand dune is actually like our archaeologists. See, I'm having trouble too. Archaeologists research camp, and they have like walled tents that didn't really make it into the shot.
Right.
I do actually like the effect. I had to build that dune to cover the wheel, and so the pharaoh was actually, or the Sphinx was actually like kind of a late addition, because I was like, well, what if we have them uncovering something so it looks like this dune has a purpose? It's not just a lump. So,
which you achieved. I think you achieved that, because it does look like they're uncovering the pharaoh head. So no, that works.
Yeah.
That works. I'm surprised that they actually had palm fronds in the brick pit.
Palm fronds, and that was about it. So I think the rest of the trees are 2x2 rounds strung onto flex tube, which I think by the time we got it over there, like the heat of the studio lights had those things starting to get a little droopy.
Actually, work to your benefit.
Yeah. Another thing that didn't end up in the cut at all was the cave mouth where the lava actually came out after turning the wheel. It's hard to tell in this photo, but there's actually a couple of like stalactite fangs coming down to give like a little bit more snake symbolism to the mouth of the cave. As the lava came out, it actually flushed a bunch of snakes and skeletons out the mouth of the cave. Wow. So we actually had as much movement as some other teams in that regard, but we didn't have the nice color composition and same stuff that like Ben and Poppy did.
Yeah. Oh, I heard the shenanigans. I heard them. All right. Anyway, so we don't like shenanigans. Anyway, this is a fun build. I will say it's obvious the time seemed to have really caught you guys. And like we said, the time is the great equalizer on the show. And we've seen you guys are great builders, and time just got you. If you'd have had 2 more hours, where would you guys have gone?
Assuming that we got the feedback on the obelisk with 4 hours to go instead of 2, we probably would have tried to cram in, maybe not eliminated the obelisk, but maybe built some rock up around it to kind of give it a little more of the same effect that Lewis and Alex had with their temple, to show that it was something carved into a volcano. We had the option of where to have the lava come out of the build. And so that was established early. We put it in the back corner so that we'd have room for all the stuff out in front that we wanted to do. That was kind of our initial thought, was like, well, this base place is not that big, and this thing is 2 feet tall. If you kind of build like a 2-to-1 slope, that's going to take up the whole thing. Where are we going to put anything other than just stick it on the side of a mountain?
Right.
So we wanted to put it in the back. We knew we had to go vertical really quickly. So that was always going to be kind of our downfall, was we were going to have an anthill sort of pinnacle one way or another. But we probably would have thrown some more rock around it to try to disguise it. But again, not knowing how the lava was going to erupt, it would have been hard to surround that with rock, because that would have eliminated our trough, our gathering trough around the base that we had. So it was, whenever you're dealing with fluid dynamics, what we've learned season 5, take note, keep it simple. assume the worst and go from there.
All right, yeah, and hey, you could have just said these snakes sliding out are our movement, and then forget everything else. Then there you go. So,
Yeah.
all right, we need to motor on a little bit, but great. Look, for you to build this in 12 hours on live TV with cameras and people and the things and everything, amazing. Nothing but respect from us. All right, so
Appreciate it.
Anyway, moving on here. All right. Allison and Melanie, I don't remember them spending a lot of time on this one.
They flew by real quick on this. I gotta say, I did not know what to expect from Allison and Melanie from the first episode, but they have been surprising me every build. That it has just been, I mean, the best way I can describe it is that they are like little kids in adult bodies and having the ability to do what they want to do, because the imagination that they have been kicking out on all of their stuff has been like what I would imagine, a 5-year-old saying, well, let's have this space alien volcano with a giant boombox and everybody having a party and playing in the lava. And it's like, that just sounds so preposterous, but it works. Yeah. And because it sounds like it's coming from a child's mouth, and they are executing it brilliantly every time. So I again, they're killing it for me every time. Just a fantastic job. Fantastic.
And the thing we haven't really talked about is that they were doubled up themes for everybody. So this is one of the cloud builds. Is that right? Am I correct?
Above the clouds.
Above the clouds.
Yep.
Correct.
Above the clouds. That seemed to be the toughest one to me to come up with something.
I agree.
I would say the ice one as well, though, because ice and fire don't really mix at all.
No, but I think the ice would have been the one that I would have gone for, and I would have totally been taking advantage of dark, blues and trans neon orange, and they would have tried to say it wasn't an ice planet, and I would have said, I don't know what you're talking about.
No, you have a bunch of space aliens with the ice and the lava coming together, and they're in a hot tub. That would have been hilarious, right?
But that's just me. I gravitate everything towards me. Oh, before I forget, Jordan, this was something that I had thought about every build you and Christopher have done, is that you are, and this is part of the reason why you're my ride or die, is that you are classic Lego fans, because you were putting little nods that I know that Chris and I would have done the same thing if he and I were ever on there. We would have been trying to go back to our heritage and including those in the builds, and you guys did a great job of doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, agreed. That's why when I saw the Sphinx on there, and I'll reiterate that the fact that you guys remembered, I mean, it looked like straight out of the Adventurer set. You guys got the eyeballs and the nose and everything almost exact to the old Adventurer set, and that was really, really good to me.
Actually, one feature that I mentioned, those push lights don't show up very well on camera. I had about 6 of those red push lights in there, and they illuminated the Sphinx from behind to show that was like the curse was awakened. And again, that didn't show up well on TV, but yeah.
Right.
I will say for Allison and Melanie here, for about 3/4 of the competition, they had the biggest build in the room. That purple volcano went up like that. They got that thing built incredibly fast. It's entirely hollow. I was waiting for the whole thing to collapse like at any moment, because it's literally just staggered all the way in like an igloo with no internal supports. And they managed to not only complete it, but then attach all this stuff to it without caving it in. So delicate touch. They did a great job. And then they had so much time to polish with all the details, which was awesome.
One ahead there. I got a bunch ahead. All right, so there we go. So that's amazing. That's pretty funny and everything. But this is great. There's a little bit busy. I think on the show, minifig scale lends to being busy. Do you agree to that?
Yeah,
it can. Ben and Poppy's was minifig scale, and it looked great. So you have to just
but
really
they didn't have a ton of minifigs on it, right?
No, yeah. I mean, you can be minifig scale without overdoing it.
But now I see the difference between, because we ding Tim and Tim for being busy. And while this is busy, there's enough negative space that it's not overly done. Like if they had tried to put even more stuff on the volcano in the center, it would have taken away from it, or they didn't. And I think that's where they're able to be busy, but yet still have a balance. And I think that's a trick. That's a trick you gotta figure out.
They have really good color blocking. Color blocking, I think, is an important factor.
Absolutely.
I actually don't know what those little balls are made out of now that I'm looking at them too. I'll have to ask
They're
Allison.
like UFOs or something. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Has anybody actually built non-minifig characters yet?
Actually, Allison and Melanie built their Rocktopus on the first episode, the brick built character. But yeah, the first few challenges didn't really lend themselves to character building.
All right, let's move on. Emily and Kelly's Rainmaker Island. They're also the cloud, and so this is up in the clouds. What do you guys think about this build? And Emily's in the room, so be nice.
This one I'm a little cloudy on. Sorry. I remember it did work in the end, but I don't remember what the actual motion was on it.
She's challenged. She's throwing it out there. Let's go.
Yeah, their motion actually didn't. The motion was going to be for the water tower to tip over.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And actually, secret behind the scenes, it's fine because not anything to do with the show. But Will slapped that thing off after they were done judging. He's like, "Oh, you mean like this?" and tipped it over and sent like 10,000 blue pips all over the floor. It was great.
Nice. Anytime Will has the opportunity to make something explode, he will not pause. He will just go. I know Amy and Jamie mentioned, or I forget whether it was Amy or Jamie mentioned that this was a tough challenge. There we go, Chris. Zoom in, help us. That they had to they did a great job of making it look cloud-y. Cloud-esque.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, I hate to say this, but I wanted more from this. I felt like there could have been more from this, and I know that both Emily and Kelly are builders, and I felt like, I don't know, and this maybe Emily, if you want to chime in, was it trying to find out where you were going? It feels like you could, if maybe you ran out of time. It feels like there could have been more. I don't know. I don't have a specific thing that I was looking for, but I felt like this was lacking and needed more to it. And I don't know how to describe it more than that.
I think it's for me. I mean, I think there's really amazing elements in it. Those teardrops that are made with brick bending, very cool. Those little trees and everything.
Yeah. This
is just an odd thing to come up with a volcano in the clouds kind of thing. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
So for them to pull this off is pretty amazing. It's a hard concept to decode, but I decoded. I can see the raindrops. I can see what's going on here. So
I think it would have been a bit better if more of the volcano itself was rock and the clouds were only in certain areas, because it basically looks like it's a snow pile. Like it looked more Arctic to me than cloud.
And I guess I'll come to their defense a little bit. Dana, you said about Tim and Tim's was if you have to walk up to it and have it explained to you, you've done something wrong. But in this case, your hand's being forced a little bit. You have to put something. You're being told what you have to do, and you have to make a narrative around it. And in some cases, like this, above the clouds, you have to be kind of creative with what that's going to be. So in this case, it was supposed to be that the cloud. Think of a volcano, or you're flying back. For me, Mount Rainier here in the PNW. And the tip of the mountain is sticking up above the clouds.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so this is supposed to be the clouds surrounding the mountain. And I think maybe they could have had like a gap or something in there to show something down below. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It does kind of seem like it maybe is something sitting in the snow. But once it's explained to you, then I think they did a nice job with the edges here, especially on that front left side.
Yeah.
They have like this nice scalloping on the edge that just kind of shows like, look, this is fluffy.
Yeah.
Very pillowy. Yes.
Yeah. No, it does give you that very cloudy effect around the outer edge. It's just the mountain. And I guess it does it. I mean, I got the whole sense from the explanation that this is the cloud, the mountain above the clouds kind of feel. Maybe cratered it out, made it look a little more like Mount St. Helens kind of feel at the top, maybe change the colors a little bit. I can't tell if the mountain is gray or white, and that might be a portion too. Now, I am saying all this, and you guys are, and Jordan, this, when I saw them list the categories, this would have been the one I would not have wanted at all. I would have wanted to go for
jungle.
Ice for sure. And for my first one, and this one being the last one I would choose, because my brain was like, how do you do that?
Yeah,
Right,
and
so Emily,
actually,
what
this
is
is a great point by Emily. They were trying to get an Arctic
We're
one,
trying to get Arctic.
and
I
they
would
looked
not have-
almost the same until you got up and you saw the little thing. But when you're running from the stage and you see a white circle, you just kind of grab it and hope for the best. So
Hope for best. Hope for best. Yep.
All right, let's keep going on. This is great and fantastic. All right, let's go on.
And actually,
to the next
that's the
one.
first time I'm seeing like the little rainbow path around some of those things too. Because I think
Oh.
somebody
yeah.
previously said they wanted to see a little more rainbow, but I like that little element added in there.
All right, this is Aubrey bought from Target, not from Wish, and Ryan. Also, another team that this week we get like 3 seconds of, hey, how are y'all? And they, didn't done. And this is not a volcano. Shay, I mean,
There's a volcano inside. I get it now, because and that's why I really thought that the whole reason for Jordan Kirschner going home was the snake didn't work, and had it worked, they would have been fine. And then we're just getting dinged with the whole, let's throw the fact that there's not an actual mountain. It's editing fluff, but shenanigans. But that being said, and I realize that the good chunk of the base of this is probably burps. And it's amazing that I guess it's cool that they gave you guys a whole lot of burps in the brick pick, because it gave you the ability to drop things down pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. But again, while we haven't gotten a lot of screen time with Aubrey and Ryan in the first 3 episodes, again, a team that has surprised me and has been coming out swinging every time. I was very pleased with this build all around. The architecture, the greenery, the rock work, the little bit of storytelling that I can't remember, but I remember them being in there when they showed it, and the flow that they had. It worked for what they wanted to do and did exactly what the ooze coming down over the rope bridge.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. And I think they even had some snakes and spiders that came flowing out too. So, I was very happy with this build. I thought it was a little higher than middle of the road, but maybe not necessarily spot 1 or 2, but strong contenders. I
think I had them in at my 4th favorite.
Yeah. All right. So let me just say, you guys got dinged for making a castle, which Space Guy was like, I don't care about the castle. But anyway, you made a great castle and everything when you Gizmo made the castle. And you got the ding from the judges, which was you made a large gray thing and with no color. And I'm going to have to say, you know what that is?
No, but that one had a lot of gray mossy bits or green mossy bits. Very well
contrast with the background and
yeah.
They did a nice job with the modeling of some of the olive green for moss in the building. Yeah, you have to be thinking about that as you're building, as many bricks as you can put down per minute. To have the forethought to integrate that green into your build. It's not a complicated thought, but it's something that could easily be overlooked in the heat of the moment.
Yeah. Best technique here to me though is, and it's a technique that's, a lot of people know, but they did a great job on it, is how the water meets the edge of the tan. That's fantastic.
Yep.
That may have been pre-built.
Oh, you're right. I think the bases were all pre-built.
Oh, you're right. I can't remember shenanigans. All right, here we go. Let's go on.
And actually, for Ryan and Aubrey, you don't have to go backwards, but there was actually a fair amount on the sides of that, if I recall.
Yeah.
Little side passages or something, those little wooden bits. So again, they got, not that brown is the most bright and vivid color either, but it was more than just gray.
Yeah, I get it. And no, this is fantastic. This is a great build. This is for what it is, an Inca temple, all that kind of stuff. Fantastic. I mean, I get it. But in one show you hear, don't use all the gray and the tans, and then boom, here you go. So anyway, all right. Moving on, duck bricks. What do you guys think?
Bionicle.
I love the fact that they did Bionicle. You saw it through you saw it through the teaser from the week prior. That you were like, oh my gosh, somebody put Bionicle into their build, and they did it in a way that is just
look.
Yeah,
they built the bonkle, man. Look at there. They put
all their statues are bonkles. I mean, I could hear Mark in the back of my head. doing the whole, Wolf of Wall Street bonkles. I know that, Now that being said, the fact that they added the bonkles in there, the volcano, it's a little all over the place though. At the same time though, it's a little busy. It's, we've seen some of the other builds that could do the greenery as subtle additions versus trying to overwhelm it. These guys go over the top every time, and I love that about them. But at the same time, it's like, if they dialed it back just a little, I think they'd get a little cleaner build. And that's just being picky. It's just being picky.
By the way, Simon said this. They didn't say Bionicle. I read a comment that these guys made on another video on the Atlanta Brick Co. video review. He said they dropped the Bionicle name like every other sentence. I mean, they were doing their darndest to get Bionicle represented by word, and they edited it out of the show, every single phrase of it. So I don't know if that's a rights issue between Fox and Lego, or if it's just Lego. Look, we're done with Bionicle.
Yeah, you can't use any references to official themes. There was an example of a past season. Somebody built Brick built the Octan logo.
Right.
And somebody walked by and was like, nope, that's got to come out. So there's no cross theme. You can build a nod to something,
right?
But you cannot, especially with an icon like the Octan logo.
Right.
The Bonko masks were probably pushing the boundary of that pretty far.
Yeah.
And all I can think is that Amy and Jamie loved it so much that they just kind of winked at each other and didn't tell the producers that those were Bionicle masks.
Yeah. Shenanigans that worked.
That's just my guess. I don't know.
We've never seen a mask like that before.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hysterical.
Yeah. Actually, these guys, their son was supposed to spin as well, and with the lava being, they had a big reservoir in the mouth of that thing to really capture it and consolidate it before it came out the front. Unfortunately, it was kind of like when you let your 2-year-old pour a glass of milk for the first time and the milk doesn't come clean off the lip of the container. It just sort of dribbles underneath.
Yeah.
That's what happened on this one. It kind of came out and went on the chin and then down the face of the thing instead of spewing off and hitting the sun spinner.
Because they referenced that they had several statues that all should have spun.
Yeah, you can see the 2 red ones on the sides.
Yeah. At least the 2 on the side.
Yeah, I don't know if the one in the center was supposed to spin or not, but the 2 on the sides, and they were, I think, anticipation of volume. Probably their entire mock could hold like a gallon of lava in it, in the various pools and holding cells and stuff.
Yeah.
And so they got just enough, luckily, to get the guys to spin forward.
Might have been like season 1 with the weight. So they're like, hey, we got to go get more weight. So they're like, somebody go get some more syrup out of the Walmart, pumpkin spice. But anyway, now I'm going to say this about these guys because we have talked offline about, and they mentioned it on the show. These guys are not mock builders. They're set builders. And they're being very successful and everything. And it could be time management. It could be creativity. It could be the fact that nowadays when you build sets, you're actually skilling up, and there's a lot of build skills you're learning and stuff like that. You've been around these guys a little bit and knowing their skill level, and they've done great and everything. Do you think they're a time management kind of thing? There's just some good creativity that they're able to put to brick, or what do you think?
I'm just going to jump in quickly saying it's also a mirrored build though. Left and right are both the same. That's
true.
That can, times 2 can make your progress a lot quicker too.
Yeah. Christopher is a well, they're both, Christopher and Robert both geniuses. Those guys are both super smart, and we joke with Christopher all the time that he's just downloading manuals to his brain every time he builds a set. And so, I think that we got to give Robert some credit on this one. Duck Bricks gets a lot of the clout, but Robert built probably 60% of this mock, if not more. He built the entire volcano in the back, and that thing, I think they were looking around the room And like I said, the purple volcano was the biggest thing in the room for 2/3 of the time. And then Robert hit the accelerator, and he threw on another 2 feet onto this thing, and just cranked it. So theirs actually extended well above the top of the tubes, which made for a really cool effect when they set off the pyrotechnics in the video, in the episode. You guys might fire like almost belched out the mouth of that thing, which was awesome.
No, it was
Okay, can I just say Lego Masters if they caught the bricks on fire would be the best episode of Lego Masters ever. I'm just gonna say, and I'm not one for destroying bricks, but that will be hilarious. To have comedically people coming out with the extinguishers hosing the thing down. That one. But anyway, Brian Anderson says that Chris has a memory for techniques. It's incredible. So, you know what? We've talked about muscle memory is super important for building on this show.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're not a hardware engineer or software engineer and you can produce how to do things out of your brain, that's just as good. So kudos to these guys, right?
Yep. No, they've again, and while I may have been a little biased in thinking, well, they're not mock builders, only set builders, and being a little gatekeeper, whatever. They have been killing it every time, and it's surprising me every time. And I got to give them credit; they're killing it. So,
all right, Nina and Sam. This was you guys. They were in the bottom two with you guys here. This is Canadian team. They have been first place 2 weeks in a row. And this seems to have tripped them up. We did notice they had problem with the viscosity issue because it leaked everywhere. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
This was like the case study in the lava finding every tiny little crack. If you walked up to this, you'd think, oh yeah, you're going to get some lava flow down that chute. And then as it came out, it like the tiny crack that was between the wedge plate that they had to make that angle and the main mock just was done.
Well, and then they had that little dude was supposed to move at a certain point, and he fell off when the pyrotechnics went off, right?
Yeah, I think they had that thing rigged to such a hair trigger. There was somebody sneezed in the back row, and that thing set off.
And launched the character, like it didn't even stay on the track.
They play tested that thing a dozen times during the build, and it stayed on the track every single time.
Yeah.
So
go figure.
Go figure. I want to give Sam some extra props. Sam is he's a motivated fella sometimes, and there is maybe a burp in this build. It is one of the biggest things in the room, and he did not use any burps in the construction of this.
That's impressive because that's a lot of slapping down bricks to get things done in time.
It was amazing.
Yeah. But therein was probably a little bit of their downfall is they were slapping brick for the big mountain, and the details did not pop on this one. They didn't have time for it.
Because I believe this was supposed to be Arctic.
Yeah.
They were dinged on the not having the Arctic feel to it.
Other than the penguins and a few little flecks of white here and there, but
But
I've
wasn't that the
I've
story
Googled
too?
some Arctic volcanoes. Like if you look at volcanoes in Iceland, there's not a lot of snow around them. Those things do put off a lot of heat.
Yeah,
but it is, you're given a habitat, you're supposed to embrace it, not twist it to reality, I guess.
Right. And I got to say though that I don't know if it's my favorite or least favorite thing about this episode all in the same time was Mom was just not happy. Just the feel coming off her. She's like, oh, if we get sent home, we were having words.
Nina is a savage too.
Because she's in it to win it. I mean,
she is.
It's Nina and Sam, not Sam and Nina. I just want to reference that's how this team is listed.
We played some spoons with those guys in some of the off time, and I still have the scars in the back of my hand from Nina. She is a savage.
If you literally take a spoon and go, I'll cut you, and put it down. And
you're gonna walk over, but you're gonna limp back.
We love Nina. She is fierce.
Let's see, Simon Liu, Sam Boy built penguins and didn't.
Ice Penguin.
Ice Penguin 2002.
Yeah,
that would have been fun.
I will say another thing that actually did make it on the show, so it's fair to talk about. there were some migratory penguins, and they found their way onto other people's builds. In fact, everybody else's build had a penguin on it.
That's awesome.
And if I do a freeze frame of Ben and Poppy's at one point, you can see one kind of lurking out of focus in the background.
Now, that's awesome. So they went around and randomly added penguins to.
I don't know when he did it either. I can't remember if he did it while we were building or if he like did it after we'd all docked them and he like snuck around and popped them all on there.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
That is hilarious.
That is.
So I'm going close up here. You know, I'm noticing these trees are very strange, and I don't know what they are. They do have snow on them, which is. Oh, okay. All right. But from a natural, I don't think I've ever actually seen a tree look like that, but it's fine.
Well, there's not really any trees in the Arctic, but you know.
Yeah. I do like this, the fact that they did not have this piece in red.
Yeah.
The piece of the track.
Yeah.
He was steaming on that one. That was so funny. Because there's the other little red double compound curve, but for whatever reason we got the gray in the one there.
That's hilarious. All right. Yeah. So there we go. We got one more. Yeah. The other Arctic one and everything. And this is one they kind of just said, "Oh, look, there's Arctic," and went on by, right? So, but there's some pretty neat things in this. There is some creature building, and I really like the sea monster popping up here. That's super cool. And everything here. So, what do you guys think about this one?
I remember watching the little wire person. I forget what the term was. Slide down. The zip liner go down, and it was like, wow, that was kind of uneventful. They just kind of slowly went down. Like,
but you know what though? I actually thought that was actually, it was something that was a risk to take because that's not a guarantee that was going to work, and it actually did work.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't any lackluster than the bad guy and Poppy and their build. So
that's true. Yeah. All right, I'll shut up.
I was expecting something. I mean, they got some things to turn and spin that were supposed to, but the blue thing over on the side above the houses. It looked like the dragon that was coming out. I missed whatever that. I mean, it looked like there was going to be something else with that. I don't know, and maybe I just missed that.
There's that long plate that's coming off of it.
Yeah.
There was. I think there's a panel with some hidden treasure behind that.
Oh, and that something was supposed to happen that maybe not
push that and free the panel, if I recall correctly.
Okay, yeah. Again. I don't like this challenge. I mean, this reminds me of the water challenge from last season. I'm just not a fan of not being able to control your own build. So that's, again, shenanigans.
I mean, you probably don't like Lego Masters very much then. That's like
three-quarters
of the build challenges, slime challenges, shake plate challenges.
I do have a low-hate relationship with the whole process, the whole show. So, yes, I do.
I would say critiques in this. There's a mix of like really awesome build, like that monster tentacles coming out of the water, and then those houses look super basic. So that it just seems like a little bit of dichotomy. And this is also a time thing, I think, and that is a large white thing. But it is Arctic. I get that and everything, but I think that would be my only ding is this middle part here, the section where the houses looks kind of basic. Looks like they were rushing to get that done. So,
and that it seems like that's just kind of a commonality through a lot of this. And now, this was you guys got 2 extra hours on this build after episode 1 and 2. I mean, how much of it was it like somebody kicked you in the gut when they originally told you 20 hours, and then
Dana, I was so excited for 20 hours.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I knew I'm a huge fan of the show. I've watched all the Australian ones. I knew they had never done a regular episode 20-hour challenge.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was waiting for the rollback. I just didn't know it was going to be a rollback to 12 hours. I was like hoping for like 14 or 16 or something.
Right. But no. Not for you. Not for you. Not fine.
All right. Sometimes I like to say what we would build, but since you had to pick, your theme was picked for you. I did think I don't know what you guys, I did think it was odd that there were like pairs of people who got the same theme. We just had an episode where 3 people build a tree and they're like, you can't do that. And they're like, hey, both of you build a cloud, and so that seems unfair competition kind of thing in a way. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
But I think it's more along the lines of if you all have something that's open up to you and you wind up building the same thing, that's kind of like but if you give somebody the same categories and tell them, hey, you got to come up with something different from each other, then you're forcing them to be different.
Yeah.
So it is more of a challenge, that aspect.
Yeah. I tell you what, it was tough being next to Ben and Poppy, being that they had the winning build and we had the losing build. You look over. At one point, I thought we were doing great because we had our mechanism, all figured out, and we're still waiting to see what they were going to do. But then as they started putting the finishing touches on theirs, and we're like still scrambling to add detail to ours, I was like, God, that is beautiful. Like, I can't believe we have to be compared and contrasted against that. But they only have so many habitats to choose from. So unless you're going to just give everybody a generic island, they probably had to double up somewhere.
Yeah, I get it. So anyway, are you guys going to contact? Or no, you said you did contact, and none of your build made it to Atlanta Brick Co.
No,
right?
it went straight into the bonfire. I think. Yeah, Will sacrificed it to the volcano god.
Well, you guys had flow issues, and they said that the brick that had the goop on it, that's what Atlanta Brick Co. got. So maybe your bricks were clean and went back in.
Yeah, way too clean.
Yeah, way too clean.
Nice.
Anyway, all right. Final thoughts. Let's see. What's next week's episode? Sound? Is that
Effects.
right? You've got to represent a sound.
Yeah. Boing, 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 bing, boing. What does that look like to you?
I believe the word is onomatopoeia.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Actually, that's why we're about to end the show because I got an onomatopoeia in a minute. So
sometimes you can't script this. You just can't.
Yeah.
No problem with flow here. But anyway,
it's going to be a wacky challenge.
Yeah. And I hate that you guys. I mean, I know it's part of Lego Masters, but it's one of the aggravating, like we've talked about. One of the aggravating things about Lego Masters is a non-Lego element causes you to go or stay. And there's a lot of ways I want to see the bricks go down creatively and everything like that. But it does add pop. It does add amazing things and everything. So, I get the balance and all that kind of stuff, but we really want to see the build. And it seems like maybe for some of the contestants, the show's been producing a few more angles and pictures and even videos of the things because that's what we want to see. I would love it. We'd love to have a 3D spin of everybody's mock every show or everybody's build every show so we can just see what's going on because we miss so much on the show. So anyway,
I think there's some degree of having control of what you get to see because some builds are not built to be viewed 360. And so it's kind of like, well, we don't want to see the gross backside of this thing. Just like when you go to a convention, you maybe have Duplo supports on the back of your mock and you don't really want the public to see that. You wouldn't put that on a table for everybody to walk around.
But at the same time, but as builders, we do want to see what you got behind there. We want to see the behind because we want to know how you got this to do this. So I disagree. I think we still want to see the 360. It may not be pretty, but the geeky builders inside of us want to see it. So
have y'all seen it comes around like every couple of months. There's the Zootopia statue somebody made and a kid knocked it over and everything. And it was like, oh, they should have let that kid in there. There's a Duplo core in that. If you look down in that picture, that thing was held together with Duplo. That kid sneezed on it and it fell. That's why, because there's little bitty legs made out of Duplo with some bricks on the outside. It was not.
It's like our cat house.
I didn't want to bring that up.
I gotcha.
Hey, give us a 3-second take on your cat house and that coming together at the end of the show. How did that happen and what was going on there?
Yeah, we built everything too big. We were building the modules and everybody's like, well, how could you not think about how they were going to connect? Well, we did think about how they're going to connect, but we didn't think about how they're going to connect in the orientation we had to set them up in to fit in the octagonal footprint we had. If you would let me set that up on your kitchen table, I would have set it up in 15 minutes, and that's what we thought we were going to be able to accomplish. As we set everything on the footprint, we realized we were way too crowded. The top of the aquarium was way too close to the sunroom, and to get everything to fit, now the angles weren't square to each other. Okay. And so, if you try to take a sheet of plywood and bridge it across something and they're not square to each other, you're going to have this thing that kind of tips like that. So give me another 30 minutes and we would have figured something out, but we didn't give ourselves that much time. So
Gotcha.
Okay.
I got you. All right. It was still an amazing build. Hey, guys, we need to go ahead and run. Thank you, Jordan, for joining us. We hope you join us for any time you'd like to join into Old Gray Bricks. We appreciate it.
absolutely.
Hey, everybody out there, be awesome, build awesome, be kind to your neighbor. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.